welcome everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Stefan. I'm a fifth grade parent here and one of the leaders of the Clean Air El Marino team. Been with them since November of 2011. We met in the kitchen of Rania Sapti Daly's house, and here we are 5 years later with air filtration. It's been quite the journey, and I'm grateful for everyone who's been involved, parents, teachers, administration, Culver City at large, who voted for Measure CC to help all the schools, not just ours. It's wonderful to go by all the different schools and see the improvements that are happening, not just here, but of course I'm grateful for what's happening here. So thank you all for being here and to hear exactly what's happened in our school and how things are better for kids and teachers and staff, and it's going to get better. Cool. Excellent. All right, I'll be behind the camera now. Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan. Okay, good. I'm Mike Reynolds, the Assistant Superintendent for the school district. I've been involved in the project since basically my first year here, which was 4 years ago. I got to know Stefan and Rania. I was told that there was a parents group out here that had some concerns about the particulates from the 405 being this close. Rania helped me get up to speed on what the items were. Diesel trucks throw out a lot of soot as they travel down the 405, and as you know, there's a lot of trucks that go by there every day. It's primarily the diesel that throws the particulates in the air. One of the problems that magnifies the challenges here is that the prevailing winds blow towards the school from the ocean, and so the particulates end up on this side of the freeway. Rania does everybody know Rania, Dr. Daly? She's fantastic. She's a real authority in this field, so we're very fortunate to have her expertise in our efforts. But she measured the particulates. There were very little on that side of the freeway because of the prevailing winds. They were all coming over here. I'll ask Charles to get into a little more of the detail of where we are and where we're going, but an overview. We have our plans for AC systems for the classrooms at the Department of State Architect, and we can't start building until they approve them. That's their job, to let us make sure that we're doing everything correctly. Andrew is our architect, who is the person that is responsible for working with the DSA to make sure we've dotted all the I's and crossed the T's. At the moment, we decided to go ahead and put in the air filtration systems, even though the AC isn't approved yet by DSA. On cool days, if we can leave the doors shut, then the filtration system will work beautifully. We put in a unit way back about 3 years ago down in the corner at the classroom nearest the freeway, and we tested what's called a MERV 16 filter, and it removes up to 95% of the soot and particulates from the 405. So that was our test unit. It was a little ugly if you've seen it, but it worked really well. And that does have air conditioning in it, so we were able to fully test it with the doors closed. I'll introduce Charles Wren. He's our bond program manager and oversees the entire project. He worked very hard getting the fields and the playground in over the summer. So he really accomplished some amazing feats over the summer.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. You kind of made things seem a little bit more, at least bigger than I think. I'm just trying to do our jobs here. I'm as Mike mentioned, the bond program manager. As you know, in June 2014, Measure CC for Culver City was passed, and that's providing $106 million of funding for the upgrade of the facilities throughout the Culver City Unified School District. And one of the most important, I'd have to say, issues here was seeing that all of our students are breathing clean air. So we wanted to try to get work done as quickly as we could here, and that's why we're doing it in different phases. The phase one is the installation of an air filtration system only, and phase two is the installation of the air conditioning, because we see the air conditioning is necessary, as Mike pointed out. If we just put in the air filtration, that would work on the days where the weather wasn't very hot. But if it gets 85, certainly 90, and it'll get 95 and even beyond a couple days a year, and we would be bringing in the outside air. What it's doing is taking the outside air. And there's, as Mike mentioned, a MERV 16 filter, which is a high particulate filter that will take out matter in the air that's as small as 0.1 microns. And so what that means is, like a screen, any type of screen, the air would pass through there, but the mesh inside the MERV 16 is so tight that it will filter out very, very tiny aspects of the air that could be harmful to the kids. And so that's what the work that's been done this past summer. And I do want to introduce Andrew Cartwright of Racklin Partners, and Andrew will go into more detail about exactly what the system offers, and also talk about phase 2 when we put in the air conditioning units. Andrew?
Andrew Cartwright with the Racklin Partners. We're the design professionals working on El Marino. So, like Charles and Mike said, that this is a two-phase project. First was the air filtration, and second is the air conditioning. All the classroom wings had heating only with furnace units. All the older classroom wings, majority of them, there's a newer building that was built in the 90s and that had a upgraded system as far as it's not just a furnace, it had a ducted and fan. There's the portable units, and then there's the two sample test rooms. So building 12, the portable units, and the two test rooms we did not touch under phase 1 as far as major construction. All the major construction was in these blue boxes that you see here, there was an existing furnace that was just a simple furnace like you have in your house. So to add the increased filtration, we had to do a ducted system, so it actually brought outside air in and mixed it with the air inside. It's about a 20% outside and an 80% inside air that gets filtered through the system, because you have to have some fresh air component for every system. So that's why in these bungalows, the older style buildings, there you can see a physical change in the air conditioning systems, where you can see the blue ducts and the casework when it has been modified. So that's the most visual change. What was changed in the portable units in building 12 is they had original regular filters, and we're installing the MERV 16 filters. So you don't really see it. You don't see a change like the big blue blocks gets changed and there's new ducts. So that's the inherent difference between the two parts of phase 1. There's the just installing filters in the classrooms that didn't need a whole new system upgrade, and then there's a whole new ducted system with fresh air component being brought in to the system. So that's phase 1. Phase 2 has to go through DSA. There's a main reason why it has to go through DSA. We have to put these large condensing units. Those are those big sort of rectangular objects that have a fan on them that you see outside of the buildings. Those are going on the roofs, and to do that we have to upgrade the roof structure. Anytime we upgrade any kind of structure with a school, we have to go through DSA, and that is a long process. So that's why we opted to split it out in two phases. Phase 1 we could do with no DSA involvement because we're just modifying an existing system. Along with the upgraded HVAC filtration system, it's also an upgraded furnace, so the heating is more efficient. So we get a more efficient fan system, more efficient heating system. Also, we're including a networked thermostat system so that it's all central controlled, and they've in the process of finally configuring all the networks, because this is a new system for the district. The network control we're looking at this being a standard for the district, and we're figuring everything out as it goes. So I know there has been some confusion in the initial beginning how the system works because everybody's used to a timer. The old system was a timer and it was an old-fashioned switch. So that was one of the things that we had our meeting, was it 2 weeks ago, last week? Last week, with the teachers explaining how the systems work. So currently, phase 2 is to add air conditioning fully to every building that doesn't have it on the campus. The buildings that do have it would be the portable units and the 2 test classrooms. So that means all the classroom buildings, the admin, and the multi-purpose cafeteria building, the large multi-purpose building. So that is the phase 2. So during that phase, which would be probably during construction, would be next summer. But the way that all these systems were installed when we designed it, that we did not have to modify the system again. Because if we installed a different kind of system, we'd have to tear it out. So there's no point of putting in something that you have to tear out. So this system's designed that we can come in when the school's closed, open up the roof, put in new structural members, pop down the new conditioners, and hook up the pipes and some other odds and ends. But essentially, hopefully next summer, pending DSA approval, we'll get through. We already have some comments. The comments were pretty minor. We're now addressing them and including some other things that were left over from phase 1.
I did want to mention that DSA is a division of the state architect. All of the work that's done in any school, K through 14, including junior college, the division of the state architect oversees that work. They're the ones that approve it. They're basically the permitting authority. So in order for us to proceed with construction, we have to get basically a permit, which is the stamp on the design. The drawings have been submitted by Racklin for part of the first phase for all the classroom buildings. We're adding in the designs, as I mentioned, for the common areas, for the admin space, for the multi-purpose room, and that's soon to be submitted. And then it'll be approved by DSA. We want to do everything together. And one of the things our new superintendent, Dr. Josh Arnold, I don't know if you had a chance to meet him yet, he wants to minimize, which makes perfect sense. There's no reason to come in and do work and then 18 months later or 2 years later come in and do something else. There's already some level of disruption. I like to say that construction is a headache, but we just do what we can to keep it from being a migraine. So just having it coming in 2 or 3 times brings on pretty severe headaches, and we don't want that. It's already inconvenient. It's messy. It's disruptive, and so we do as much as we can during the time that the students aren't here, during the summer or spring, or if we can during the limited time we have during the winter recess as well. There's just not as many business days during the winter recess, but we try to get as much done during that period of time. I don't know if
Any questions?
Any questions?
So by
Do you mind? Thank you. Good.
so just to be clear, by next fall, like fall 2017, all the classrooms and facilities should have air conditioning? Is that
Yes.
what we're okay. And then all of the filtration filters out 95% of the particulate matter.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are
All
in
right.
now. We're swapping out. There's
the mic
some
on?
filters. Sorry. Stand corrected from the last meeting, but the filters inside classrooms 21 to 26, which is in the more recent building, it was done in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, 98, 99. Those classrooms have the old filters in it, so there's still filtered air. But we're swapping them out now in the process with the MERV 16 filters, so that all the classrooms throughout the campus would be filtered, have an air filtration system in them. Some of the work, Andrew's going to go into more detail about that, but the work for the air conditioning, you're not going to see a lot of differences even in the classrooms 21 to 26, because the ductwork and everything is already there. There's no air conditioning, there's already heating in that building. But we're going to be putting in the air conditioning condensers so that the air can be cooled and not just heated.
Any other
More
questions?
Okay, so if the teachers, let's say it's a day where it's like getting kind of hot in the classroom, but it's cooler outside, would they be able to shut the doors and have it be cool? You know, would they have incentive to shut the doors right now before we have AC, or would they still need to keep the doors open on the hot days? Do we know?
We tested all the rooms, and the number of air changes per hour where all the air in the room is changed again, it's about 4 times an hour every 15 minutes. You know, it can be a little bit less. So it does, if you open the door and you leave it open for more than about 15 minutes, it'll take a little bit longer to change all of the air out. But if you open the door a little bit, and we did test what the impact was of having the door open in the rooms, so we understood how long it took for the air to be completely filtered again. So in about 20 minutes, it's all filtered again. So if you open the door for about 10 minutes or so, it's certainly less than 15, and then close it, you'll know that all the air is cycled out of that room. As Andrew mentioned, it's filtering about 20% of the indoor air that's already in the room and bringing in outdoor air and filtering that. So that's allowing for us to have sufficient number of air changes per hour so that you have a whole new set of air. And that's the ventilation that we want to create in the air. We've all know what it feels like to be in a stale or stagnant, stuffy room. You know, we use those terms for that. We know what that feeling is. The air is just not moving at all. I mean, even here, you can feel the air is moving. Not a lot, you know, but there is some movement in this room. So that the air filtration will allow just because it's bringing in outside air, 80% outside air. If the outside air is hot, you're bringing in hot air. So it can feel uncomfortable. It won't be stuffy, but it would be very warm. And that might be uncomfortable. So you may, and then that's going to be up to the comfort level of the teacher and how they observe the students, whether they're focusing or able to concentrate or not. At that point, if it seems to be detracting from the learning environment, it would probably be a good idea in that case to open the door for that period of time and then let the room, because again, you're going to be bringing in outside air, but the outside air will still be warm. So that's why it's important for us to get the air conditioning done as well, so that the doors can stay and the windows can stay closed. We're also going to be weatherizing because there's cracks and leaks, you know, in every building. So that's going to be happening as part of Prop 39. But we do need to also do that as well, just to limit, especially here because we're only 50 yards, at least classroom 20, just 50 yards away from the freeway. So all of that together will help us see that the air inside is clean, it's totally clean. Of course, your outside is going to take different types of strategies, knowing what the AQ&D ratings are for that day and limiting outside activities, physical activity for the kids and things like that during those days for sure. But today's rules, we wouldn't be able to build a school this close to or put it the other way. They wouldn't be able to build a freeway this close to a school. But now we know. So we're here to do something about it.
So since it matters if they keep the door open or closed, is there any kind of like instruction or practices or like things that you have for the teachers saying, try to keep your doors shut as much as possible, or do they understand like 20 minutes and it's going to take 20 minutes or however long to clean all the air again, all that. Is there any kind of recommendations and that kind of thing for them?
Yeah, and it brings up, we should put together, I could put together some type of written procedure for Mina to be able to, edit and see that it's clear. That's something we can work on, and we will work on that. And I can get, I'm talking off the top of my head. I haven't looked at the study for, I don't know, probably about a month now. I'll go back and get the specific numbers. I'm speaking of rules of thumb. It's about 20 minutes, about 15 minutes. So I can give you something specific, and then that could be emailed out or however distributed, and willing to come to another teachers meeting or PTA meeting or something to talk about it and answer questions. So it's probably something that you guys think about that I hadn't thought about, and it would be a good idea to include as well.
Well, and just so you know, I'm next to the microphone so I can hear it, but these gentlemen were at a meeting last week with the teachers that I filmed as well, so all the teachers were trained about the system, and Mina had a PowerPoint to show the actual interface of how to adjust, and each classroom will be able to adjust the temperature based on their comfort level, of course, once the AC is in place. But it would make sense though to continue to keep in touch with the teachers as well, though, as they're actually experiencing what it's like and what the threshold is for the children, and if they're having an issue concentrating or seeing sweat coming off their forehead, whatever else, like what can we do? We have these portable units here that we can hear now. If you're sitting next to it, it might be a little distracting for a kindergartner, which we have some kindergarten parents there, to actually stay focused and whatever else. But it's a work in progress, and it's definitely...
Yeah, and I did mention those. There's a I wouldn't say negligible impact. They do make some impact. It's not significant, and that's acknowledged in classrooms. And so far, compared to last time this year, we're doing okay with the weather, which is great. Last year we were having a string of 4 or 5 days in the hundreds. It was, and certainly even more in the 90s, 95. It was a lot harder. So if we can get through this period, through October really, because it's been hotter in September and October the last few years here, we should be okay. It's when it gets 80, 85, and 90 for sure that there'll be a choice to be made, unfortunately. It is better than last year or better than prior to the summer, but it's not, we're maybe we're out of the water a little bit, but we're not, we're getting there. We're not quite where we want to be with this. We're handling this incrementally. There just wasn't enough time earlier to be able to get it. The drawings have been in DSA since March, is it? April. So, here we are, and going on 5 months. It can take a long time for things. They're overworked. I mean, not to say that the quality of the work, and they're very thorough as far as an agency, and more so than I've seen. And from municipalities, they're extremely thorough. They dot the I's and cross the T's and find everything. So that's a time-consuming process, and they don't cut corners. The time that it takes is the time that it takes. There's even a well-known term they use called bin time, because they're looking at every school project statewide, and there's only a few offices. There's one in San Diego, LA, Oakland, and Sacramento. And so they're covering large areas of the state, and projects will sit in the bin for months before it's even looked at. And that's just a reality. So we're still just coming out of bin time.
Well, we appreciate it if you let us know, like, as soon as you know, like, if it's going forward, just so we can, let the community know it and others. Because I know that as parents in the past have toured the school and everything else, I think it's going to make a big difference for them to know that air filtration is here and that it has an AC system and that it's working, and 95% of the freeway is not going to be in the classroom with the air. It's going to make a big difference in how the school is looked at. So we're very thankful for all that's been done. It's really wonderful.
I just wanted to thank you all and both of you as well, because I know you've put a lot of work into this. I just had a follow-up question to yours, is about instructions for the teachers. We have a new teacher, and I'm not sure how familiar she is with the system, because when I initially talked to her, I don't even think she realized like it was an issue. So I don't know if this is something that needs to be turned on, or is it done centrally? Like, is it done in each room, or is it done central? And about, about the doors. Last time we were instructed to use microfiber cloths. I don't know if that's still a recommendation, to clean the desks inside. I don't know if that's still a recommendation. I know I've been going in twice a week and doing it, but I don't know if it's necessary. So those kind of instructions, I think, would be really helpful for teachers as well as parents.
Sure. This last question first. Probably not anymore. When the air wasn't filtered, the dust, will settle down, and then it gets on whatever the surface is, and then dusting it off just helps it from re-emerging into the air. So now, since the air is filtered, I'd say probably not. But I'll double check that with our industrial hygienist and see what more of a formal recommendation is, because that's somewhat out of my area of expertise. But sometimes common sense doesn't necessarily translate into what is the best practice in this case. So I'll confirm that. The other is, right now, Andrew mentioned that this is the first place we're doing network programmable thermostats. So somebody in the computer sitting over at the maintenance operations and transportation MOT can program each individual classroom to a particular time. So right now, the standard time that they're being programmed is to turn on automatically at 6 a.m. in the morning and turn off automatically at 8 p.m. at night. And that's just to catch teachers that want to start the day early and those that want to stay late. So you'll know that your classroom, that's your default setting. If it needs to change, then you could let somebody in maintenance know, and we can customize that. We would like, as time goes along, narrow it down, because it does take electricity, and of course there's a bill for that. So we would want to minimize it if it's going to be running 68, and really the hours should be more like turn on at 8 a.m. and turn off at 3 p.m. Then the other hours are not necessary. But we're going to learn through, and that's what Andrew was talking about. We're still learning as we go. And that's one of the things we're going to learn. So each classroom will have its automatic programming. It can also be manually overridden. So you can just turn it off if you want to, or just turn it on. The other is that the furnaces are set so that if the temperature drops below 68 degrees, they will automatically turn on, so the classroom is heated. So we're trying to make this something that you don't have to think about. You're already having to think about enough doing the curriculums and the teaching and just dealing with the kids and the dynamic of the room and the space and all that's going on. So we'd rather you focused about that, thinking about those things, and not thinking about, am I breathing air that's coming from the freeway or not? So we want to take that off the table so that you can focus on the things that you really need to be focused on, and not thinking about these other things.
Any other questions? Yes.
The habit of the teachers and their focus on their school stuff is part of why I was concerned about the doors. Because when we were here, it was just like, hot day, pop open the door. They were open a lot. So that's why I think maybe they need like to be reminded to shut the doors. But I wanted to ask you if they were dirty, because I haven't wiped down my son's classroom yet this year. Have they been dirty?
They're very dirty.
Okay, then my completely non-professional opinion would be to say yes, because I moved my daughter to El Rincon because I was uncomfortable with the speed that the filters were getting here, and I was volunteering in the room once a week, and I would go around the classroom and I'd just make sure. So it's like, we made a big move, and make sure and like, there wasn't dusting going on. There wasn't, and I didn't have black on my finger. So I think if you're still finding black, then, maybe after school when the kids have left the room, the less that's there, the less you kick back up again accidentally ingest, or I don't know. My unprofessional opinion, and I'll start wiping down my classroom. But I wanted to know what your experience was. And
yeah, what I'm wiping, is it the freeway or is it just kid dirt?
Right.
I can't tell.
Your class is also an aftercare class as well, so there's double usage.
yeah.
They say they wipe it down, and I go in the morning and it's still dirty, but it's hard to tell.
And if I can also speak to habits of the teacher, when I walk around the classrooms, most doors are now closed. So if I don't have my keys, I cannot get into the classrooms sometimes they're unlocked, but I will need the keys to go through. So teachers' habits have changed, and they have come in to do a staff meeting, like a thorough staff meeting, and they all had great questions as well. So, but again, reminders are always nice, and reinforcements are always nice. So we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, and then I just have one more question to follow up to what you said. Something about monitoring the outdoor air quality for when they're outside playing, like if it gets to a certain level. Can you tell me more about that? Like, is there what are you going to be monitoring, and when are you going to say no running around outside kind of thing?
And who monitors and implements the limited activity? That was the question too.
I can handle that one. My executive assistant, Mary Soto, sends out daily bulletins when we receive a report that it's an unhealthy air condition. So we send that out to all the schools, and then they use that to plan their PE activities
So
accordingly.
just to clarify, the emails from the APMD, and they rate it like moderate or
Yes,
severe.
yeah, they have colors associated with each level of concern. So it doesn't happen every day, but when it does happen, she sends it out to all the schools
It's pretty
to let them
frequent.
know.
I would say it's almost on a regular basis. And then Mrs. B will radio it to our PE coaches, and then from there, our PE coaches will note it, and will also, on especially hot days, they'll take advantage of the shade that we do have, and or really modify the physical activity that the students will engage in.
So I'm curious what level you change the activity, like they rate it moderate or severe.
So on average, I would say it's mostly moderate. So I don't know that, I don't know what's above or
Or severe.
yeah. So because on average it is moderate, we would keep our routines in place. Anything beyond that, there is a modification that we would need to consider.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would refer you to the AQMD website. You can, all of that is there. And if you like to get your own personal email, you can give them your email, and they send out an email blast to anybody who's interested, the same information we're getting, just to say what the air quality levels are for that particular day.
So if it's severe, if the alert is severe, then will the kids not go outside that day, or is it just staying in the shade?
It will depend. It'll depend on the availability of space. You also sometimes see our PE coaches use the auditorium as a kind of a space to congregate the students. It does have recommendations as to what they should or should not do on the AQMD. So you will hear Mrs. B reading that off. So based on that, there's the modification being placed. So students may be outside, but may not be engaging in the physical activity because that's the recommendation that is being made.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I think Stefan wanted to wrap up about 5 or so. I'm not sure how.
Yeah,
if we've
sorry, we're
kept
a
you
little
on.
bit over. Yeah, just
Okay. And before I give the mic to Stefan, let me thank Stefan for the work that he's put into this project. He's been just a godsend, literally, to the district, and has put countless hours in bringing these issues to our attention with Rania, helping the committee meet and schedule, and he scheduled things for today. So thank you, Stefan.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to add about the microfibers. The PTA did purchase microfibers for all the classrooms. They're going to provide them to the teachers so that parents can sign up and clean. And definitely, as Christina said, like if it's dirty, it's something that we can do. And we started that early on. Christina was a big proponent of this from the beginning, many years back. That this is something that we can do. Like we always wanted to do something, right? We're parents. We wanted to do something for our kids, and just being able to wipe down is like just take away some of the stress. Taking a lot of stress away and the particles away with air filtration, but it doesn't hurt. And it's also nice to be in the classroom and see the work and whatever else. Talk to the teacher. It's a community. We want to stay connected, and it's a great way to do that.
What about the outside tables? Is that something that our staff, our janitorial staff take care of, or should parents be doing that as well? Because clearly that's not being impacted by the air filtration. And those tables get really...
The outside tables for the...
2 hours every
like
morning.
outside each of the rooms.
2 hours
I
every
do
morning.
see parents wiping their tables.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that, but that should be the parents' responsibility.
If they can, I mean, our custodial staff will hose them down, but on a daily basis it would be difficult, so the parents can support that.
And how often do you recommend it being done? I mean, just from a health standpoint, what are the recommendations?
2 hours every morning. There's black every morning on the tables.
Yeah.
But we're in the kindergarten, so...
They do get
So if they-
used, and as
And
frequently
overnight.
as possible is, I guess, the generic term of saying it.
Great. So yeah, if anybody watching this is interested in getting involved in the committee, you can email us at info@cleanerem.org. We'll keep you informed when we hear from the district. These wonderful gentlemen here when we get the news that AC is happening next summer, and we'll continue to stay connected. There's ways to get involved. So thank you very much.
Thank you.